Welcome, everybody. On behalf of the Toyota Portland region, appreciate you taking time this morning. My name is Ron Rennan, and we do have the entire sales training team here today. And we're excited to pivot over to our Toyota product versus the competition series. And those will be the webinars for the rest of the month of May. Speaking of the month of May, first of all, I hope everybody is happy, safe, and healthy out there. We all know it's been kind of challenging times here the last month or two, but looking at the sales report this morning, I'm happy to report the Portland region is number one versus objective. As we mentioned the other day, we've got good inventories, we've got great incentives, and the most important thing, all our dealerships are open, and slowly but surely, I think we're getting back to the new norm. So today we're going to talk about the Highlander Hybrid, and there's a reason, and it should be fairly obvious, why we picked the Highlander Hybrid to start off this series. I guess, first of all, we were going to launch this vehicle right when, mid-March, when all the COVID-19 first started, and we actually had a mini roadshow. We were going to take this training out to you, but of course that got put on the back burner, and we are looking forward to getting out and visiting all of you sometime, and hopefully that'll be sooner than later. But the other reason we're starting with the Highlander Hybrid is because it ties right into our hybrid imperative. And by that I mean, by the end of this year, and we've talked about this before, 1 in every 3 vehicles we sell will be a hybrid. And we've got a lot of exciting new product coming to help us achieve those goals, and we're going to share some of that information with you today. So before I talk, I'm going to toss this over to Mr. David Yingling. We call him Mr. Highlander. If you were able to join us in person for our Highlander launch program, you saw his walk-around version. He's also got a Highlander hybrid walk-around video on our section of the Dealer Daily website, both on the COVID-19 and on the Region Dealer Daily site and their sales training. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. David Yingling. Take it away, David.
Thank you, Ron. So Highlander Hybrid versus the competition. So there's a ton of competition in this mid-size SUV segment right now. Currently, the 4Runner and the Highlander hold the 2 and 3, or hold 2 of the top 3 spots right now. But there's a lot of competition, like we said. Every OEM is in this mid-size segment, or they're going to join this mid-size segment. We see competition from Subaru, Kia, Ford, Honda, and Jeep. And today, we're going to start it off looking at our sales training team that we have with us here today. So Ron, thanks for kicking it off. He's our regional sales training manager. And then we also have the vehicle product training specialist team with us here today. They're going to help answer questions at the end of this presentation. But please feel free to reach out to any of us if you ever have any questions regarding product. So we have Edgar Delgadillo, Steve Dahlberg, Cynthia Johnson, and myself, David Yingling. Some quick housekeeping items. Please type all of your questions into the Q&A followed by your name and dealership name. These questions will be answered by the team at the end of the session. And this meeting is an overview of Toyota Highlander Hybrid, and this is not available for ILT credit. So looking at the business case. So the Highlander is actually the number 3 selling Toyota in the Portland region. If you break out Highlander Hybrid with this, the Highlander Hybrid is the number 6 best-selling vehicle in this region. And the reason we talk about hybrid so much is because we're seeing a massive ramp-up in our hybrid production. We're going to see more hybrid cars than ever in the Portland region, and we are key to pushing the hybrid imperative for Toyota. Next, the mid-size SUV segment, it continues to grow. It's one of the fastest growing, along with the small SUV segment. And then the Highlander Hybrid was actually the first mid-size SUV in this segment with a hybrid powertrain. So let's flash back to 2005. Everybody pictured a hybrid in just that Prius format. It can't be a family hauler or anything like that. But when we introduced it, people saw that you can load your family into a hybrid and get that gas, get mileage at the same time. Now, currently, we have some great payment options on the Highlander and the Highlander Hybrid. 2.9%. with an average payment coming around to $633. And if you bring in a good rent charge factor, you can get that lease down another $100 to $200. On the topic of leasing, the Toyota Loyalty Lease Program is happening this month on all the Tacomas, the Corolla family, Highlander family, and RAV4. if it has a lease maturity date from April to November, this month they can bring it in and get $1,000 right towards their new Highlander Hybrid or other Highlander product. So at this point, we also do have the 90-day deferred payment customer support program due to the current COVID-19 crisis. So we'll dive right into it here. If you look at our hybrid family from 2019 to 2020, all of our models received either a minor or major change. We actually received 2 all-new hybrids later this year, with the Venza and the Sienna coming to us 100% hybrid. In all, our hybrid sales will make up over 30% of our total sales mix in 2020. So we've said it before, we'll say it again, but there is a great opportunity with these new products, but we just have to make sure we're up to speed with our hybrid technology and the competitive advantage that it gives us in performance, gas mileage, and the environmental impact. So real quick, I want to show everybody a cool video that has been posted to our Dealer Daily page. It is a little long, but it gives a great visual into our hybrid system in the all-new Highlander Hybrid. It is going to be silent for the first 20 seconds here, but then beware, it does come up with some upbeat music. So this is the 4th generation hybrid system for Toyota. So that video gets me excited, and I just have to say there's no better time to be with Toyota. Our hybrid lineup puts us in a unique, hold up, let me get off this slide here, puts us in a unique place for customers today. You know, they can save gas, they can reduce emissions, and they actually receive some awesome performance at the same time. So at this point, I just wanted to say thank you for what you all do on a daily basis. You are the front line, and we really couldn't do it without you. Now, looking at the comparison for today, we're going to look at the 2020 Ford Explorer Limited Hybrid all-wheel drive. The reason we're looking at this vehicle is because it does have some good market share and sales numbers, but it's also the only other hybrid offered in the midsize SUV segment, and it's only actually there's only one hybrid offered in the Ford Explorer lineup, and it is this limited. So if you're looking at the Ford Explorer, there are 6 models. The top 3 are the limited, then the ST, followed by the Platinum. I'm going to reference that a couple times, and there are 4 powertrain options as well. Now on the Toyota side of things, we have the all-new, completely redesigned Toyota Highlander HYBRID Platinum all-wheel drive. So you'll see the starting MSRP there. We come in at about $5,200, where the Ford comes in at about $54,475. You know, you might see some extra delivery charges with that, but right off the bat, I think there's a lot of great value in that MSRP for our vehicle. So on the Toyota side of things, we have 6 gas models, including the XSE, which is on its way later this year. And then for the hybrid side of things, we have the LE, the XLE, Limited, and Platinum. And I have to say, the biggest benefit is that when is the grade walk, actually. You know, when you're on the lot with a customer, you can show them the gas and the hybrid variant, and really not much changes. And if you haven't had the chance to see the grade walk yet, I would direct you to the Highlander Sales Consultant Guide, and that's available on Dealer Daily. It goes in depth and is really just a great resource. So actually, one last thing on this note, I do want to provide some insight to how Ford is marketing this vehicle. They're really showing this for adventurers, people empowering to go seek out destinations and load up the family, load up the gear, and that's something I'm going to touch on a little bit later. They really want the family, and they really focus on loading up the gear as well, like a toy hauler. So as we dive into it here, we're going to look at the powertrain. So we're comparing the front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive on this slide. So it looks at our 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine with the E continuously variable transmission that actually has sequential shift mode as well. On the Explorer side of things, they have that 3.3-liter V6 engine with the 10-speed automatic transmission, the same one that they offered in the Ranger if you were able to join us on the Ranger versus competition we did earlier or later last year. So looking at horsepower, Explorer takes the bag pretty big on this one, and a lot of that is due to that V6 engine producing a lot of that power. Looking at fuel economy, if you look at the all-wheel drive version, it's actually 35 across the board for the Highlander, and it's actually 27 across the board for the Explorer. So our best-in-class mileage showing itself off there. But when you look at the passenger volume, wow, the Explorer has a lot more space, not only in passenger volume, but in cargo volume as well. And actually, I do want to point something out. Take a look at the middle number on the left, that 48.4. It's kind of important to note that there is more cargo and more legroom in the third row of the Highlander. And the main reason for this is that middle row sliding the additional 1.2 inches versus last generation. And that's not the only benefit. It also actually makes it easier to access the third row as well. So if we keep moving on here, we have our active safety suites, Toyota Safety Sense 2.0. And that compares to the Ford Copilot 360 Assist Plus. Don't worry, we'll touch on that a little bit later. And then looking at the audio and multimedia, we love this 12.3-inch screen. It continues to steal the show for us. It has Amazon Alexa and Apple CarPlay and a lot of other great features. And then on the Explorer side of things, they have Ford Pass Connect. But I think it is important to note that the XLT model and up are the only ones that have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto available. So if we continue on, we can look at our connected services. We have Safety Connect, Remote Connect, Destination Assist, and they all have that 1-year trial period. And then Service Connect actually has a 10-year trial period. And really the goal of this is to drive that retention for you and your dealership. So looking at the HVAC systems, everybody's got a 3-zone climate control. And then really Toyota Care really helps us take the bag when it comes to a no-cost maintenance plan. We got to continue to sell that. Toyota Care is really our crying call when it comes to maintenance. And then 24-hour roadside assistance. Ford has a 5-year, 60,000-mile offering, which is very good. So we're going to do something a little different here. We're kind of going to do a walk around on the interior of the Ford Explorer. So this is the interior of the Limited that we're looking at. So if we look at this car from left to right, we're going to start at the steering wheel. The steering wheel has cruise control buttons on the left and media controls on the right. So this is a little different than we see from a lot of OEMs, so it might cause some confusion when a customer first gets into this car. Next, they have an 8-inch MID, very similar to the Highlander. And then what's actually really cool about the interior of this is they don't have a shift knob anymore. They have a shift dial right in that center console there. You can shift from park, right to reverse, neutral, then drive. And actually, if you exit your car, the Explorer in this case, when it's not in park, it actually automatically places itself in park. So right behind that is a dial very similar to multi-terrain select mode, and they can change between one of 7 drive modes. A drive mode that they have that's pretty cool is they have a tow mode available. So one more thing on the center console is they have a wireless charging similar to us. We have it within our center console, but there's lanes right up against the back of it. And the little downside of that to is if you're braking for a red light or anything, the phone is known to slide forward a little bit and come off that angled charging pad. And then one last thing is in the middle of the screen, right to the lower left of the 8-inch infotainment screen, that is the start-stop button right there, kind of wedged between the vent and the steering wheel. So when I look at this car, the biggest thing I have to point out is that if this is a family hauler, I think there should be a couple more cubbies. You know, there's not too many places to put your keys, wallet, and things like that. So if we switch over to the Highlander side of things, well, let's start with above the driver's left knee, just the left of the steering wheel there. We have our 6 buttons, you know, auto brights, camera view, auxiliary power, and a couple others like a heated steering wheel. If we look at the steering wheel itself, the buttons are actually integrated seamlessly. You can slide your hand across them. They don't wear and tear, and they actually feel great and have a great pressure to them. On top of this, we have our media controls on the left and our dynamic range cruise control volume or controls on the right. Now, if you jump up from that, we have our 10-inch color heads-up display. You can't see this image, but it is very customizable and can display your speed, your road sign assist, and dynamic navigation, just to name a few options. Now, in the middle of the screen, we have that 12.3-inch touchscreen that's passenger and driver-centric and has those 4 buttons for the main screens, the home, the menu, audio, and map, and it's super convenient to hit those so you can quickly go to where you want to go within that screen. Now, looking at drive modes, we do have a couple drive modes here with EV, normal, and sport. And then on top of that, we do have heated and ventilated seats. But one point I do want to talk about is the open trays with that blue ambient lighting. It's easy to keep track of everything. And separately, in front of the passenger seat there, it's a great spot to grab for somebody that has a little bit of trouble getting into a vehicle. So if we keep moving on here, we're going to look at some key advantages. So first and foremost, we're going to call out the cyclist detection. We live in the Pacific Northwest. We see a lot of cyclists out there. I'm one of them. But, you know, it's important to note that we can prevent a front-end collision with a cyclist. And then if we keep moving on there, 36 miles to the gallon with our rear-wheel drive. That best-in-class gas mileage is showing itself off once again. And then towing capacity. So the Highlander Hybrid has a standard 3,500 pounds, and the Explorer Limited has a standard of 3,000. But a lot of the cars they bring in does have this extra tow package, which bumps it all the way up to 5,600 pounds. So that's best-in-class towing right there, and that's really their value statement about how much they can tow with this car. So we continue to look at a couple more things. We have our Platinum audio system. So we have the premium audio with dynamic navigation and JBL with Clarify. So we get 11 JBL speakers with that, including the subwoofer, and produces 1,200 watts. On top of that, the dynamic navigation is a 3-year trial and the destination assist with that 1-year trial. So we have that heads-up display that we talked about, but if we switch over to the Explorer side of things, they really have that horsepower. They have that 318 compared to 243. But I do have to say, off the line, you really do feel like you have a lot of control and power in the Highlander Hybrid because of how that hybrid system takes place from that video that we just saw. So one more thing is that I think it's pretty cool that if you're a premium luxury customer, they do have power folding seats in the 3rd row. so you can hit those buttons, and then it's also available in the second row. And one last thing here is that at 152.7 cubic feet, this Explorer is huge. So let's put this into a real case scenario. If there's a customer coming to look at a Highlander, and they've made it clear that they're looking at the space that they get inside of the vehicle, it's important to know those stats, leg room, hip room, how long is the vehicle has, overall. So I'm actually going to make this interactive from what Edgar showed us last Tuesday. I'm going to head to Engage, and I'm going to show us all how to get this information. So just one second here.
So while David is going to transition over to Engage, I wanted to remind everybody that you can type your name and your dealership that you're from into the presentation here. And you have the ability in the Q&A section to ask questions. We encourage all questions, and we will compile those and answer them at the end of the program today.
Yeah, sorry for the delay here, everybody. Looking to bring up my Engage here, but I guess we will just do it. Here it is. Okay, so I am on the Engage screen. If you go to the Highlander tab, Competitive Advantages, and I've already pre-selected our Platinum Hybrid versus the Limited Hybrid. But a couple important things that I wanted to know is we were talking about dimensions, right? So overall, the Explorer is 4 inches longer, and it's actually 3 inches wider as well. So that's how they're getting all that additional passenger and cargo space. And actually their wheelbase is 7 inches longer. So what does that mean? That actually helps with their towing capacity as well. And the Explorer is a rear-wheel drive vehicle, not a front-wheel drive vehicle, when it is not equipped with all-wheel drive. One last thing is when we launched the Highlander, we talked about it. It's the Bravelander, right? So we got 8 inches of ground clearance on that, just 0.1 more than the Explorer. And then if I continue scrolling down here, there's one interesting fact that I want to touch on, and it is about the hybrid systems. So the Toyota Highlander has an active hybrid system versus the Explorer has a mild hybrid system. And we all might be like, well, what does that mean? So a mild hybrid system means that it's a smaller battery, a smaller power control unit, and the whole idea is it's meant to really just assist that engine. It can't drive on EV mode at all, but it really doesn't give you that best-in-class gas mileage that you get from an active hybrid system. So at this point, we'll bring it back to the presentation here. And I'm going to have to slide through some slides. But it's important to know where we sit in the marketplace. So we just finished talking about the size of the vehicle, right? So on the left here is a top-down view of the Explorer. So looking at the back, you have those 2 seats, 2 captain chairs in the middle and 2 up front. So it's a 6-passenger vehicle. And then there's that button next to the headrest in the second row to make that a power folding middle row. And then finally, if you look to the front, is that kind of iPad configuration they have with the front infotainment system. A couple options you have with the Explorer is you can get a twin panel moonroof similar to what you see in the Highlander for about $1,700. And then they have a Bang & Olufsen 12-speaker system with only 980 watts. And then they do not have a full-size spare as well. Now, on the right side, I just want to point out that the Highlander sits in a unique position. It's kind of in this powerful but functional and premium, but it really doesn't follow the trend of a lot of the vehicles in this segment in being more minivan-like, for instance. So we're powerful, we're rugged, but we still have that premium image. So, safety suites. We have to talk about it. Ford Safety Suite, it's called the Ford Copilot 360, is standard on all of their vehicles. So with that, I'd say the coolest thing you get out of that system is the rear cross traffic alert. Comes standard with the blind spot monitor. However, that is not an active safety system. So if we look at the ones that can actually take action here, we have the pre-collision, the lane keeping assist, the adaptive cruise control, and the evasive steering assist. One other thing to note is that the Limited does come with the 360 camera, which is pretty similar to our bird's eye view. So, Toyota Safety Sense 2.0. We all love it, and it is the crying call of Toyota. If if safety is on the top 3 of a customer's wish list, we have to talk about this. So we'll start with the pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, enhanced speed reduction capabilities, pedestrian detection in low light, and daytime cyclist detection. So for the pre-collision system, the vehicle is operational, or the pre-collision system for a vehicle is operational from 7 miles per hour to 110 miles per hour. And then for pedestrian and cyclists, it is 7 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour. Now looking at road sign assist, we have those 4 signs we can see on the MID and actually sometimes on the heads-up display as well. Speed limit, stop signs, yield signs, and do not enter signs. I find the speed limit sign to be the most valuable of this when you're driving on the highway for a long time. Just look at your screen real quick and just remember the speed limit. If we keep moving on here, the lane tracing assist. So it's designed to work with our dynamic radar cruise control, and it really just keeps the vehicle centered in the lane. And next we have the lane departure alert with steering assist. So lane departure alert determines if the vehicle is unintentionally deviating from the center of the lane. And then if you're going more than 32 miles per hour, the steering assist can kick in and bring it back to the center of the lane. One last thing, automatic high beams. We all love it. You know, it automatically turns itself off if it sees oncoming cars. And then finally, the full speed dynamic range cruise control. It can bring you to that complete stop, and then it can hold you there as well. So, now running on the end of time here, but if we look at the warranties, the basic warranty and the powertrain warranty are actually exactly the same for the Highlander and the Ford Explorer. But when we see that first change is when we look at the hybrid battery warranty. 10 years and 150,000 miles on a Highlander hybrid. And actually any of our hybrid vehicles have that exact same hybrid power or warranty. So the biggest part of this is that we stand behind these hybrid batteries. We've been working with them for multiple generations, and we know how to manipulate them and get the most out of them. And compared to the Ford, they're only offering that 8-year, 100,000 miles, which is similar to our hybrid system warranty. We kind of touched on the no-cost maintenance with Toyota Care, 2 years, 2,500 miles, and then roadside assistance. Ford has a great offering with the 5 years, 60,000 miles. So one last thing is we have some great resources out there. Of course, Engage, Dealer Daily, but we have Toyota PDX Training Instagram page, and I think we're going to have to offer some of the, the Dynamic Force engine that we talked about a little bit beforehand. I think we're going to do our next post on that. It's really powerful. Our Dynamic Force engines really don't get enough reputation or talked about enough. You get enhanced power and responsiveness, but at the same time, it is one of the world's most efficient engines at 41% thermal efficiency. So if we can keep going on here, we have our sales training team YouTube page, put some great videos on there as well. And then finally, let's bring it to our question slide. So just to kind of wrap up here, 3 main points of excitement that come to me when I think about the Highlander. Number 1 is the exterior. It's powerful looking. It's well-defined styling, and it really stands out. You know, a Highlander drove past me yesterday on the road, and when the sun hits that correctly, you know, it's spring, summertime's just around the corner, that car really sparkles. Number 2, the ride. And looking at the interior and function of this, the Highlander has more space, more utility, and it's more friendly than our previous generation. And finally, the drive performance. It's really exceptional. Fuel economy and acceleration, but also it really enhances the emotional side of driving. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Stevie D to see if we have any questions coming in.
All right. Thank you, David. Yeah, great information on the Highlander versus the Explorer. So good job there. We do have a couple questions. Before we jump into the questions, it looks like Joe from Rodland Toyota chimed in. I didn't know if you had a question or not. So, Joe, if you have a question, go ahead and type that in. And then I do have a question here, and I will bring it up here. So it was mentioned the Ford Explorer uses a lithium-ion battery, which is, and of course we use the nickel hydride battery. Is there a benefit to the nickel hydride versus the lithium-ion battery?
That is a great question, and I'm actually going to cue that one over to our teammate, CJ.
Good morning, everybody. So we have known all the way back to the first, second generation of the Prius that Toyota has used the lithium battery, the nickel metal hydride battery. There are several reasons for us doing this, And probably the first reason is the reliability of that battery. We have studied that battery. We know that battery. We know to make enhancements to that battery, how to really enhance it for whatever vehicle that we are implementing hybrid technology in. So the other part to that is that we are able to manipulate that battery. We are able to make the improvements. We're able to change its sizing, making it smaller, as you've seen on some of the vehicles that we have just introduced here lately, and also making it lighter. So we're able to make and manipulate that battery to make it lighter, which improves the efficiency of our hybrid technology. Now, who's to say here in the future, we will use some lithium products in our batteries, but for right now, we're proven, we know that the nickel works better for our hybrid technology.
Yeah, good answer, CJ. Yeah, we've been using the nickel metal hydride for years. It's very robust. We've been able to supersede that year over year, improve it, make it lighter, smaller, and so it's a great answer there. There is another question here, David. You referenced towing several times in the presentation. Do both the Highlander and the Explorer have the ability to tow, and are there any restrictions?
So that's a great question. Yes, they can both. They both have towing capabilities. Currently, if you have a Highlander model with the kick liftgate, so the kick sensor liftgate, you cannot currently have a tow hitch on that vehicle. We are still working on a workaround, and of course, the newer generation for next year will have to fix for that. And on the Ford side of things, they have that tow package, that optional tow package that brings it all the way up to 5,600 pounds compared to our 3,500 pounds.
Okay. Thank you, David. Got a couple more questions. Actually, a comment from Joe. Joe did not have a question. He said, all looks good. Thank you, Joe, for chiming in, and thanks for being on the training today. I do have another question, David. What is the benefit of having the side view mirrors located on the door panel of the 2020 Highlander and not the A-pillar?
Great question, and the man for that's actually going to be Edgar. If you wouldn't mind taking that one.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everybody. So there's actually a few benefits for having the side mirror placed on the door panel and on the A-pillar. The first one would be it actually minimizes the wind noise and the road noise, or excuse me, the wind noise coming off that side mirror. And if you notice, a lot of the features outside of the Highlander are actually engineered to help with that wind noise. So that's just one extra feature that you get there. And also the biggest one, it's a safety thing here. So it actually minimizes the blind spot of the B pillar, which is one of the most dangerous blind spots of the vehicle. And another thing to keep in mind also is that the A pillar of the 2020 Highlander is actually slimmer than what we've seen in the past model. So I just want to chime that in there. The blind spot of the front windshield is also minimized.
Yeah, who would think the benefits of relocating something like that? Those are good benefits. So thank you, Edgar. We have a question from Rachel from Marysville Toyota. We know Rachel very well. The question is, the Highlander Hybrid Limited and Platinum do not have the tow package available at this time. Will they be available at some point?
Yes, they will be. Great question, Rachel. Looking forward to next year. They will be available.
So if we have any other questions, we have a few minutes to be able to answer those. So we'll give you here a few seconds. If anybody has another question, please chime in.
Hey, Steve, can I chime in to Rachel's question here for just one sec?
Yeah, do it, Edgar.
So according to, what we got word from TMNA, we don't have a set date yet, but, they were trying to make these packages available sometime in the summer of this year. Of course, that was kind of before the pandemic happened, but according to what we were told, that's the time frame. And also, this should be something that will be incorporated into next year's builds. So I just want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Edgar. Good insight. Well, so with that, I don't see any more questions. I want to thank everyone for the questions and being on today, and I will kick it back to Mr. Bravelander, David Yingling.
So once again, thank you everybody for joining us here today. Resources-wise, I would like to direct you to Engage for utilizing anything product knowledge. It is really, the holy grail of anything product knowledge when it comes to Toyota. So much better than just typing something into Google. On top of that, please reference our Dealer Daily YouTube site and Instagram site for exciting new product information. On top of that, that is all we have for you today. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And tune in next week for our next segment of Toyota versus the competition. We'll be looking at the RAV4.